Hi, welcome to today's webinar. I'm Hella Schwartz-Grossman. I'm the marketing manager at Worldox. And before we get started, I would like to just go over a few housekeeping notes. Today's webinar will be recorded and the link will be emailed to you afterwards. Everyone is muted right now, and we have a question panel. So if you have any questions, you can put them in, and we'll go over those at the end. Today's webinar is part of our new legal technology webinar series, and we'll introduce some of our partners. So join us every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. First up, we have our premier cloud hosting provider partners, and today we would like you to introduce you to AdaptiveSky. And our speaker today is Gordon Einstein. He's the founder of AdaptiveSky. Gordon is a hybrid technologist and licensed attorney. He received his undergraduate degree in politics in 1991 from Vanderbilt University in Boston, and then received his JD in 1995 from the USC School of Law in Los Angeles. Gordon is also a proud Eagle Scout, having gracefully served in the Boy Scout Troop 223. Gordon's love of technology and software motivated him to found AdaptiveSky nearly 15 years ago. AdaptiveSky's mission is to provide seamless and secure cloud IT services for law firms on a national basis. And the pursuit of this led to AdaptiveSky embracing Worldox and becoming Worldox systems integrators. Gordon's spare time is dedicated toward very slowly improving his Russian and German language skills, travel, free weight strength training, and various recreational programming projects. AdaptiveSky's custom client environments are hosted on systems that are company-owned and that are located in multiple secure locations. Client data is securely backed up in multiple ways for dispersed storage and access. Additional backups to client side can be arranged. Connections from the client side to AdaptiveSky servers are always highly encrypted and thus always private. AdaptiveSky also actively monitors the client system to ensure that everything is always safe, secure, and fast. So today we thank you for the attention you'll be giving this webinar. And Gordon, your turn.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on the show, and thank you to Worldox. And I like that description of the company. I forgot that I submitted that to you. That's good. Actually, that's a good encapsulation of who we are, what we do, what we aspire to be, and to keep ourselves towing that line, especially, and we'll talk about it, especially during these very exciting times in 2020. So just to kind of recap a bit of this, let me lay out what AdaptiveSky is from our point of view, why we chose Worldox, and then for part of this webinar, I'll be going over a specific issue, which is ransomware. Ransomware applies to the threat of ransomware, I should say, applies to every law firm, really every business out there. And AdaptiveSky, because I'm an attorney and one of my key coworkers, Benjamin Shapiro, is an attorney, we're highly sensitive to ransomware, both from a technical point of view and also from a legal point of view. But let me just sort of lay some groundwork initially. I was somewhat happily practicing law, doing estate planning, business, and tax work in Century City, California for the first 5-6 years after I graduated from USC. But then, as I like to say, my inner nerd raised his head and took over, and I switched careers, kind of chucked that law practice and mostly to the wind, though life has changed recently. It's kind of interesting. And I got into computers and technology, or I got into doing computers and technology as a business. I'd always been a hobbyist or a prosumer, however you want to call it. And I figured the perfect blend of my interests would be to blend my interest in technology and software with my interest in law, because even though I wasn't necessarily interested in practicing as a lawyer, I find the law to be fascinating, and I find how law firms operate to be fascinating. So, of course, we did what most IT companies do at that time, late 90s, early 2000s, which is we set up and we maintained local servers and systems for our clients. And at that point, the term cloud wasn't really out there. What inevitably happened is we got bigger and bigger clients. They began to operate in different locations. We began to attract more and more law firm clients. And that, mostly because of the clients pushing us or demanding it, required that we start transitioning aspects of the systems we were setting up for them to the cloud. Now, cloud has, is a nebulous term, pardon the pun. It can mean, the email system is inherently cloud, it operates over the internet. It could mean backing up to the cloud, backing up to an offline source. It could mean offline or separate disaster recovery. There's different permutations of what cloud means, and it's worth discussing. The version that we finally settled on, and there were some steps involved in getting there, is we went all in. We actually made it so that AdaptiveSky bought its own equipment. We own our own equipment. We situated it in a very secure data center, and we enabled those servers to provide what's called a remote desktop environment. So what happens with our clients? How do AdaptiveSky clients work? Well, if you're familiar with terminal services or Citrix, it's like that. You have a single icon on your desktop, and that desktop can be an iPad, a Mac, a PC, it can be at home or in the office. You have an icon on that desktop. You double click that icon, and a new screen, a new Microsoft Windows screen comes down over your existing screen. It's not a website. It's not a webified version of these applications. It's not a streaming version of these applications, though there's a place and time for those. It is literally a replacement Windows screen. And in that Windows screen, we provide all the software that one would expect, PDFing software, Office suite type of software. We provide the email backend, we provide the email security, and we do all of the administration, all the security, all the backup. So it really is a seamless, secure, and fast remote desktop environment. And this is perfect, especially for law firms, especially when they have multiple locations, especially when they don't want to buy a new computer every week and have to go through the manual action of setting it up. When we started AdaptiveSky and sort of began filling this up, we were pretty much the only ones doing this. I think we were pioneers in the space. Now, of course, a lot of time has passed and people have either copied this or come across this idea on their own. But I think our special sauce is, or we have a few ingredients in our special sauce. We're sensitive to the security issues faced by our clients, and we'll talk about ransomware and other things. That motivated us to own our own equipment and not use outsourced equipment. We're sensitive to the high uptime and very high reliability requirements of law firms. You can't have a brief due the next morning and then go down. That's just not acceptable, and that's a natural fear that people have about cloud solutions. What happens if the internet's down? What happens if this thing's not accessible? And I think very much on point for this discussion, because we decided to focus on law firms, and because the size of our clients kept on growing, and because our clients wanted flexibility and adaptability, hence AdaptiveSky, we felt the need to be not just in a position to recommend a document management system, but we decided that we needed to pick one, the best one that was appropriate for our client set, and just run with it, become experts in it. So I personally became familiar with Worldox because one of our clients had it installed locally and was moving to us to AdaptiveSky as part of a firm combination or breakup, depending on how you want to look at it. And that forced me, as part of that process, to become exposed to AdaptiveSky. And like I said, we've been already deciding, that we needed, or had already decided that we needed to include a document management system in our platform and be experts at it. I didn't ask Worldox for permission. I just started sort of hacking away at the system, trying to figure it all out. I read all the manuals, all the books, and then I was like, oh, wait a second. I can actually call Worldox tech support and get help, heaven forbid. They pick up the phone and get some assistance with this. That kind of started the road where first we became Worldox resellers, then we became Worldox systems integrators. Now I'd say 70% of our clients in AdaptiveSky in this remote desktop opt to have Worldox installed in that environment as well. And AdaptiveSky and Worldox, it's like peanut butter and chocolate. Each one is good by itself. I mean, I'll never say no to peanut butter. I'll never say no to chocolate. But when you put them together, you get like a Reese's Pieces bit of joy, because obviously Worldox has a cloud product, which is good and serves its purpose, and we do implement it for some clients. But the main Worldox professional software is not natively cloud enabled. It's really two separate product channels. Well, different people like different things, but our clients enjoy or benefit from or ask for a full remote desktop experience with all the programs available in a standard Windows desktop. And because we install Worldox into our environment, we in essence are doing one way of cloud enabling Worldox. We're an alternative cloud provider of Worldox, if you like. And this has been extremely successful. Worldox has been very kind and generous with this time, working with us, supporting us as we interact with our clients, as we move them off competing systems, some of which are good, but they're not necessarily appropriate for the size client we have, which is 100 or less users. And it's just been a very productive relationship. And it's caused me, though we can't really fly these days, it's caused me to fly to lovely Worldox in lovely New Jersey and elsewhere. It's 5 times at this point, and it's been very productive. So Ella, we kind of had a little pre-show discussion.
Yeah.
You're so wonderful. We've worked with you so closely. There's going to be a dialogue element of this, especially relating to COVID and everything else. I'm going to pass the microphone virtually back to you for a moment, and let's just talk about Worldox and AdaptiveSky and the questions or comments that you have.
Well, thank you, Gordon. We do have, as you mentioned, we do have Worldox Cloud, but a lot of times firms have more than just one application. So, this is where you come in. You will host the whole desktop. You give them everything. So that's where it works out perfectly.
Yeah, and actually, let me comment, because this has come up a few times recently. The majority of our clients are on this remote desktop solution. The one I'm describing is it's really AdaptiveSky's primary offering, dare I say. But quite recently, and partly a result of referrals from Worldox, we've been fortunate enough to start working with general counsel at larger companies. So there's a general counsel office that's part of a larger company. Now that larger company usually is not inclined to move their entire IT system onto AdaptiveSky, and B, they don't really want Worldox deployed to the entire company, but maybe they should. They want it specifically for the general counsel's office. So one thing we've been doing quite often recently is setting up AdaptiveSky-like environments, not on our own equipment, but on our client's setup. So, if they have an internal terminal server or internal remote desktop or internal remote access solution in place, the expertise that we've gained from working with Worldox and having work on our platform has enabled them to set up their own private clouds. So there's sometimes it's just a matter of preference. Sometimes it's just a matter of need. Some clients like our solution. Some clients want to keep a version of it in-house. Some clients work with Worldox's own cloud offering, which is great. And it's kind of neat that Worldox is so flexible. And I'll also point out, you kind of alluded to it. Worldox, one thing we like about it is it doesn't try to be all things. It doesn't try to be an accounting system. It doesn't try to be a docketing system. It doesn't try to be a case management system, though it has those elements to it with this workflow product. It's very good, and I think this kind of is an effect of being a mid-sized entrepreneurial company, though it's been around for a while. It's very good, as my coworker Ben says, sticking to its lane and being the Ferrari in its lane. But it holds hands with other, Lamborghinis and Maseratis, and does quite well in that role. So that's why we like it. It's very good for our clients who want sort of the best of breed in every category. So Helen, go on, please.
Right, thanks. And some other things that come up during this time. People work from home. A lot of more video conferencing and things. How do you handle that for your clients?
That's a great question. So the benefit, I wish I could say I saw this in advance, but it was just right time, right place. The benefit of AdaptiveSky is that we didn't have to pick up remote desktop or cloud or home support as an extra effort. We're natively that. We're born that. Those are sort of like first class qualities or properties of AdaptiveSky. It's not something we figured out later because we had to. It's always been remote. It's always sort of encountered the issue of bring your own devices, which we can talk about. It's always encountered the issue of Attorneys work everywhere. They work in the office, they work at home, they work at their clients, they work in Thailand on the beach, ideally. They work everywhere. And so when COVID started picking up steam, I think I was a bit prescient, actually. I was kind of clever. I sent my wife and my son off to a safe, protected villa in Phuket, Thailand, where they waited out the worst and enjoyed, good Thai food and the beach for too long, really 2 months, but we didn't think it would be so long. But we, as a marriage-saving action, I avoided the situation where we were all crawling over each other in this house, as much as I love them. And before there was a work-at-home order, before, Cuomo, Gavin Newsom, Gavin, I forget all their names, but before all these government types, while they were still playing around with whether or not we should wear masks, I drafted an email and sent to all our clients saying, weeks before it's required, or weeks before anyone thought it was going to be required, I should say, everyone, COVID is serious. Everyone may need to work from home and shelter in place. This may happen sooner rather than later. Of course, we're natively set up for this. You're all on remote anyway, but we need to now proactively go through each one of your users and make sure that they truly are set up at home, that they can truly do what they need to do. So work with us. Let's schedule appointments quickly and efficiently and in a methodical, planful manner to verify this and catch any issues. And so, sure, as one might expect, most of the attorneys were more or less set up to work from home, though they did have internet teething issues, which we can talk about. But staff, there's all kinds of legal and other issues with having staff work from home, especially overtime type issues, because they're not exempt employees. And a lot of them were theoretically set up or had said they were set up, but there had been turnover, there had been this issue or that issue. But even before the firms had to go home, we got through 95% of the work done to set everyone up remotely. So when the government strongly recommended or insisted that everyone go home, or our clients decided to send everyone home for liability reasons, they were already set up. It was pretty seamless. And I think, people have sort of a mixed relationship with IT companies. On one hand, they never want to hear from them. On the other hand, when they want them like, that moment. It's not like they're, best friends all the time. But we got so many referrals and emails of appreciation and personal compliments from the way we handled the COVID situation and got everyone working. Our clients didn't miss a beat. It was really useful. So I think it ended up being great. Now, of course, there's issues with getting webcams, getting home scanners, home internet connections. It's not everyone's imagination. The internet really is slower these days. It's not a joke. There's articles that we sent out, and actually we've sent letters to our clients also, because when they have slow internet at home, we don't wash our hands of it. We don't say, hey, we're Google, you figure out your internet problem, then our search will work. We worked with them. We said, look, it's not your imagination. We're validating what you're saying. It's true. But here's what we can do about it. So there's things like we work with Time Warner, now Spectrum, which of course just had a big outage, to increase home network and troubleshoot issues. We help people get the correct wireless routers. We help people cable in when they needed to. In some cases, they needed to upgrade their laptops, which were, from the 1940s. They were like Abacus versions of laptops. It's been work. And like you mentioned, every meeting now is remote. You need good webcams. I mean, you and I had a little conversation before. You have to look good on webcam. I'm still working on that. You have to angle it. You have to get a nice, blue screen in back, or else people see, all your personal stuff like your gym equipment and everything else, because we're all working at home. There's the issue, I think, during the Supreme Court hearing, one of the Supreme Court justices used the bathroom and forgot to mute himself or herself while that was happening. So there's all these little etiquette issues that we need to work on now. But between Zoom and Microsoft Teams and some other products out there, people are adapting, and I think there's a benefit to not having to drive everywhere now. For me personally, I used to do so many networking lunches because I'm in different networking groups, explaining about AdaptiveSky. It's hard to keep the weight off. And then you can imagine I sent my fitness-oriented wife to Thailand for 2 months. I kind of gained some weight, and she came back and she's just like, you're not leaving the house anyways, and we're changing your whole diet. So you can call it now on the Zoom intermittent fasting plan. So
Right.
it's been interesting.
Yes, it definitely is. There are a lot of changes everybody has to go through, but it sounds like you've been able to take good care of your clients, and things have gone smoothly. So we always are happy to hear that. And
Worldox has been great with that, by the way, because we had a couple clients that were on local setups, and then of course when this happened, they're like, oh yeah, we want AdaptiveSky now. But, and that was a quick move. So Worldox has been really Johnny on the spot with releasing licenses, working with us, transitioning. I'm sure you've gone through your own challenges. I'm sure you've gone through your own processes and work at home teething issues, but Worldox has really been there for us, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, we've had like you also said, and this is something Ray has said. We hear from customers. Yeah, we never missed a beat on getting moved from where everybody working at the office to everybody working remotely, and just try and keep everybody able to work the best they can. And
so if it's okay, I want to talk about sort of as part two, the security issues related to any kind of setup, whether it's in the office, whether it's Worldox Cloud, whether it's our platform or someone's private cloud, they were always important for law firms. They were always important for the financial firms. I know Worldox has a lot of finance-oriented clients, not necessarily law firms, but they've really come to the fore because of COVID. We're seeing, and it's on the news every day, we're seeing just massive phishing attacks. Phishing is when someone pretends to be someone else in an attempt to extract, either transfer money or email credentials or server credentials. We've seen just a massive upsurge in phishing attacks. We've seen a massive upsurge in, I'll call them intelligently guided or human guided ransomware attacks. We've seen just a lot of clever, nasty business, including from my favorite place, Russia. And there's just been a real upswing for that. So I think if we've got time and we've got bandwidth, I think it's worth addressing some of those issues for our audience. This is, of course, AdaptiveSky takes this very seriously, but I think this knowledge is generally applicable and can help a lot of people. Is that okay?
That sounds perfect.
Great. So I have a deck. I'll share it with the group as soon as I share my screen, but I just want to throw out a couple ideas first. First of all, when your email system, it's not merely enough that you go through a reliable provider like Office 365 or us, we resell as a partner Office 365. You need to layer onto that platform, you need to layer onto that email additional email security. We use Mimecast, and Mimecast is very good, but there's definitely alternatives. But one of the services that Mimecast offers, which is nice, is that if an email is spoofing coming from the inside, but it's released from the outside, it will identify that, hey, this may look like it's coming from managing partner because it has what looks like managing partner's name, but it will identify that email is actually coming from outside the organization. And it puts a nice yellow banner on that email, alerting the viewer to that fact. That's a good heads up that can protect a lot of people from phishing attacks. And I find that to be very useful. You must, and we'll talk about this, about the ransomware part, have multiple means of backing up your data. It is not enough, God bless it, to have, I shoot guns for fun, don't get nervous, but I do. And in gunfighting, there's an expression, which is 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So if you have one form of backup, you might as well have no forms of backup, because that backup can get compromised, can get attacked itself. If someone's clever, you need at least 2 forms, and one of those forms must be off-site. Okay, it cannot be over a VPN connection. It has to be a true third-party provider. So, CrashPlan or Microsoft Azure or something on Amazon. It can't be just you over a VPN to another location, because you, whether it's us or you, the client, if you get compromised, that can get compromised also. You really want some sort of software agent, third-party software agent, pushing your files up. You absolutely want 2-factor authentication on all your accounts. What does that mean? That means that when you go into AdaptiveSky or you go into your office computer, or when you remotely access your resources, you want, for example, Duo or something else, where there's an application on your phone where you have to approve, that it's really you before you get in. either by typing in a code or clicking a big green button. You do not want to set up where you get a text when you're logging in, because there's something called SIM card swapping, and people have tried this on me, where either someone pretends to be you, or there's an insider at AT&T or Sprint that knows that you have the goodies, and some kind of employee will take over your account. When you get a authorization text, they'll send it to their phone, not your phone, and get in. So do not use text messages for your two-factor authentication, and don't work with vendors who only offer that. You want Duo, Google Authenticator, or something like that. All our clients, we insisted that they go and do two-factor authentication. We made it mandatory because there's so many hacking attacks right now coming from Russia and China. We actually, for a period of time, Hella, you're gonna like this, for a period of time when everyone was sheltering at home, we banned all network traffic that did not come from the United States, okay?
Yeah.
The entire world cannot get into AdaptiveSky unless you're in the United States. And no one noticed it for 2.5 months. Why? Because everyone's sheltering at home. They shouldn't have noticed it. Then finally someone had to go to Mexico to see their family because of a family issue. And then they pointed it out, and I felt like giving that person a prize because they're the first one who noticed this. But
right.
Geolocation, geographic restrictions are a good security tool. So I'm going to share my screen. See if I can do this properly. Okay, you should.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
I think I'm going to turn off my camera so I can see the screen. Give me a moment. I need to view my own screen. Let's see if I can do that. Or do I minimize this? Oh, there you go. Okay. And give me 1 second. Let me just, oops. Good. Let me stop the interrupting chats. Okay, great. Hella, you can see my screen?
I can see your screen, yes.
Okay. So this presentation deck, to be honest, and you'll notice it if you're familiar with Bitcoin or other things, you'll notice that this presentation deck at this point is kind of old. It's still highly accurate, but I'm going to point out some things that have changed or some things that have evolved, but it's very useful still, I think. So this is what I call ransomware 101 for law firms. Understanding what it is. How do you defend yourself from it? And then how do you recover if you've been subject to a ransomware attack? And it does happen. Just real quickly about myself, I think we covered most of it, but I am an attorney. I'm also Microsoft certified. I'm probably the only Microsoft certified attorney on the planet, I think. And most of our clients are in the sweet spot for ransomware attacks, dare I say. They're of a size where if they weren't on our platform, they wouldn't necessarily have the redundant systems in place or the processes that can protect them from ransomware. So I think this is good for everyone viewing this video who is not yet on our platform and needs to sort of cook their own protection. I've also, I'll point out, I've dissected ransomware. I'm a programmer. I've looked at it internally, and I'm also very familiar with Bitcoin, as anyone who Googles me knows. And these areas of knowledge come together nicely when it comes to ransomware defense. Okay, so this slide's a little bit outdated. I'd say maybe 7 years ago, not 2 years ago, 7 years ago, back when ransomware was kind of a new thing, maybe 5 years, somewhere 5-7 years ago, we were actually subject to a ransomware attack. And due to an oversight, I'll just own it. A client had actually told us that a specific area did not need to be backed up because it was just sort of a workbench platform for them, not where they were storing their files. But of course, some paralegals and some junior staff were using that area as their work area, and ransomware attacked that drive, and the client needed to get the materials back. And because we had excluded that area from backup, something, I'll never make that mistake again. It was a situation, ransomware attacked that drive, and we were victimized by ransomware. I'll just say it. And the learning experience and the stress and gray hair and wrinkles I developed from that ransomware attack motivated me and motivated everyone who works with me to become complete experts on this topic. And now we help other firms, we help other IT companies recover from ransomware attacks. So what is ransomware? Let's just take a big 50,000-foot view for people who aren't familiar with it. There's, it's worth reading this quote. I think I made this up actually. Ransomware is a malicious software program which will prevent the user from accessing his, her, never mind the pronoun, system or files until a ransom is paid. Upon payment of the ransom, the user may, I should underline that and bold that, may receive the software tool needed to gain access to the system or files. That sounds kind of neutral. It sounds not so threatening, right? Well, or maybe these days, because people are smarter, it does sound threatening. It's famous last words. Let me just put that away. That's ransomware. It attacks your system. It encrypts your files, your work files. It makes them unavailable, and you only get them back if you pay a ransom. Well, this is where it's kind of rough. You think you have good backups. Well, ransomware, there's nothing stopping ransomware from attacking your backups, especially if your backup is a attached drive or something you manage yourself, say over a VPN connection. That ransomware will see that attached drive, it will see that remote connection and encrypt it and hold that hostage as well. Again and again, cloud systems get attacked, and ransomware authors are not dumb. They know people are backing up to the cloud, so there's no inherent safety in being on the cloud. In fact, it can create a false feeling of security that isn't warranted. When files become inaccessible because they're encrypted, they're not a little bit inaccessible. They're completely encrypted, and it's impossible to reverse that encryption. Some early ransomware had some holes in it, but these days you're not going to recover your files. You either need a good backup or you have to pay the ransom. Part of the complexity of these ransom is that, these bad guys, they don't take credit cards, they don't take wire transfers, because of course that would reveal their identity. They only accept payment in cryptocurrency. 90% of the time it's Bitcoin. And if you don't have any Bitcoin on hand and can't get it quickly, you got a real problem, because the ransom demand usually doubles every 2 to 3 days. So you get this exponentially increasing cost of getting your files back. And if you're playing around, or your IT guy delays because they're nervous about reporting what's going on, or you think you can recover it, well, that's not really practical, and the cost goes up all the time. After some period of time, usually 30 days, you lose the option to even pay the ransom, even the higher ransom. Your files are forever encrypted, and you'll never recover. So there's a deadline, there's a meeting with God moment coming, and you have to act fast. And there's a question that I think is worth discussing, especially if you're approaching this from a lawyer perspective. Is paying this ransom ethical? You're encouraging this behavior, you're incentivizing this behavior. Well, I'll tell you, lawyers and law firms are service providers. We owe a duty of loyalty and service to our clients. And whether, the nuances of the ethics don't really matter. If you have a filing due, or your client's estate plan is gone and they're, lack capacity and that you need that thing, you're going to pay the ransom. And then if you're an IT company, you should pay the ransom if your client gets ransomware and you're trying to protect it, especially if you're on a platform like ours. But sometimes IT companies don't have the resources to pay it. They're financially thin, so it's a real issue. Again, all the time, I should say, ransomware requires a payment in cryptocurrency, usually in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is a lot more ubiquitous and available than it used to be, but it's not super easy to get. You need to figure, you can't just go to your bank and buy it, though they may change soon. You can't just go to PayPal and buy it. You need to get it from someone, one way or another, or you need to buy it on Coinbase or something like that. Now you can see that this presentation is slightly dated, because back in the old days, Bitcoin was worth 611 and it was worth 1,228. Well, this morning Bitcoin was worth 11,000. So if your Bitcoin ransom starts at 2 Bitcoin, that's $22,000 worth of Bitcoin. You have to quickly acquire, and good luck if you don't know how to do this. So the process for getting it is really, if you need it quickly, you need to set up an account at Coinbase, or you need to know someone like me, and I do this all the time, where if you're in an emergency situation, you can reach out and I can cut a deal with you to get you Bitcoin very quickly. I've actually developed a side business called Bloody Bitcoin, where if someone needs Bitcoin quickly and they're under real pressure and they can't do it through Coinbase because Coinbase takes a while to ratchet up, we can get them Bitcoin quickly. There used to be Bitcoin ATMs in Los Angeles. There may still be now or nationally, but they're under regulatory threat, because operating a Bitcoin ATM is basically being a money transfer business or money services business. And FinCEN, Financial Crime and Information Network, I think it is, has come up with rules saying that these ATMs need to apply Know Your Customer, KYC, and AML, anti-money laundering. And so it's very hard to get your hands on a Bitcoin ATM. Plus, Bitcoin is so expensive now, it's unlikely you can do enough transactions and get enough Bitcoin quickly to pay a ransom in time. So here's how ransomware attacks work. And this relates to the phishing topic as well, because a bad person can pretend to be your boss, send an evil file to a secretary. A secretary will think it's a boss, open up the file, and then you get encrypted. So here on the screen is an example of a dangerous file. It looks legitimate.
Gordon?
Yes, ma'am.
Gordon? Are you switching slides? Because we still don't see different slides. I still just see the first one.
Oh, yes, I was, and that's odd. Let me see. My screen is shared. Let me start again. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, so it's okay because the prior. Thanks for letting me know. The prior slides were text. This is the first graphical slide. So
okay.
It's okay as long as people understood what I just said. That's great. And of course, I'm happy to share this deck with everyone so they can get the written version as well. So, but thank you for pointing that out. So, if you can see this. Ella, you can see the screen now.
Yes, I can.
Great. Okay, so you have this sort of look. You have this looks legit thing. You have a title that looks legitimate. It has the .pdf extension that people are used to, but then there's this evil .exe at the end. That's an executable, right? And people can click on that, and if their system is not properly locked down like ours is in AdaptiveSky, one secretary, one staff person, because they're in a networked environment, can cause a ransomware attack not only on their own system, but on every other computer in that network, including computers that are available over a VPN connection. So here's an example of a ransomware looking file. Or this is no longer such an issue because Flash is deprecated, but there's many websites that say, your computer's infected, click here to disinfect your computer, or to apply antivirus, or your version of Flash is outdated, click here to update. Well, a lot of the time, those warnings are fake, they're wrong, and that's another way of tricking people into installing ransomware by mistake. And these days, ransomware doesn't necessarily even need a click or user action to install. There's something called a worm, which means it goes over a network connection and installs itself, or makes use of remotely accessible PowerShell or scripting to install itself. So it's tricky. Now, when ransomware attacks, and it usually attacks over a weekend, you come in on a Monday thinking everything is fine, try to open up your files and they say they're corrupted. Well, in every folder though, there's something like what's on the screen right now, which is some kind of graphic or some kind of text document saying, some bad news. And again, I'm happy to share this deck, but it's something like this. Your files have been encrypted. You cannot recover them. You need to pay us a Bitcoin ransom. You need to pay it, go to this website for further instructions. And there's no chance of recovery if you don't do this. So a graphic like this is in every folder where you have these encrypted, inaccessible files. And of course, if you're an IT company, you start off getting phone calls about, this thing's not accessible, there's corruption, and then, more and more phone calls. It's really fun. You go in, you see this, and you get the sinking feeling. And if you don't have good offsite backups, or you don't have backups that work and you thought they were working, there's a horrible sinking feeling that can happen. So you get it once, you never want it again. Oops. Then you usually be lead to a website, and the website provides what's called a wallet address that you need to send Bitcoin to. This is back in the old days when Bitcoin was cheap, but it looks like this, and there's different advice on how to do it. These days, a lot of ransomware attacks are, not just run in an automated manner, but they're run by humans. So the human may actually email you from an untraceable email server, and there's some of those in the Netherlands and in Switzerland, providing more instructions on how to pay. So you'll either get an email or you'll get directed to a website like this. Then you need to go to Bitcoin ATM or Coinbase or something, and you can see this is the good old days when Bitcoin was only $431. Buy Bitcoin, send it to your own wallet, and then send it to the Bitcoin wallet that the ransomer specifies. Now, if you manage to get enough Bitcoin, and if you send it to the wallet in time, and the ransom has not gone up in the meantime, hopefully, the bad guy will give you something called a decryptor. A decryptor is a piece of software that has the unique key that will decrypt your encrypted files, and you can recover all your files. So far, in my one experience and been helping maybe 20 other companies unrelated to us recover from ransomware attacks, I've never had a situation where a decryptor hasn't worked, but that doesn't mean anything because it just takes, that's like saying, I smoke and I haven't gotten cancer yet. Well, once you get cancer, you're never going to know which cigarette it was. Hopefully I'm not offending anyone that, gave you the cancer. You basically just don't want to smoke. It's always possible that the decryptor won't work. And even the ransomware people, I won't say mean well, but intend to give you the decryptor, they can forget, they can get arrested, they can have a problem, they can have their own technical issues. It's not 100% reliable, but this is your fallback. And then here's the decryptor in operation. You can see decrypt.exe on the left-hand side. I'm pointing to it. I know that doesn't work. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the decryption progress. Now, it goes through your files one at a time, decrypts them, or maybe not one at a time, but a certain number at a time. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but eventually, depending on the number of files you have, one day later, a few days later, you'll get your files back. The date created will change, the date modified will change, so you're going to lose that information, but the core content of the file will be recoverable. Okay, so this happens. This is a slightly dated article, but if you Google it, you can see that several cities and hospitals in Florida just got attacked by ransomware and had to pay the ransoms. It does happen in law firms, and law firms are not immune. So how do you fight back? Well, there's a term I like. It's called a vector. With coronavirus, we're all familiar, I think, with vectors. Vectors is sort of the thing that a virus rides on in order to get to you. So you can say a vector for COVID is someone breathing on you and the particles that they breathe. Well, a vector with a computer virus is email. It's a worm attack. It's a bad flash update. It's something like that. These are all vectors, and you got to be aware of your vectors. The primary defense against this stuff is an external perimeter defense, like Mimecast, like what I mentioned. Stop it from even getting to you. Block certain websites, block certain executables on a firewall level. But on the inside, within your own network, within your cloud or local network, you want to make it so that only programs that you explicitly whitelist can run. In other words, unless it's explicitly forbidden, it's denied. It's like in old Soviet Russia. That way, if an unknown program shows up on your network and tries to run, even by someone who's a local administrator, if that program is not on your whitelist, if you haven't whitelisted it, it can try to run, but then what's known as group policy on Windows systems will stop it from running. It's a very effective tool. And every once in a while, a ransom will get on our system, try to run, and we'll see it fail because of a group policy lockdown. So the most current one from Microsoft is AppLocker. That's the tool you want to use. And there's other third-party providers. How do you fight back in general? Well, you need to back up your files, as I mentioned. You need backups to your backups, and you need third-party backups, okay, that are physically offsite from your platform. We use CrashPlan. I like it. There's many others. Just keep in mind that attached drives are in danger of being encrypted themselves. So you need to swap those in and out of your environment if you're going to do that. Move them away from your network. And hello, that's actually it. I went fast just because of time. I am going to stop sharing my screen and reinitiate the camera. And hopefully you can see me soon. And hopefully we can see you soon. And again, I went fast, I kind of spoke fast, but I'm more than happy to share this deck with the audience, with Worldox clients, with customers in general, and hit me with questions and hit me with comments.
I'm looking to see if there are any additional questions. I don't really see any. I don't know if you have anything else that maybe you would like just in general to add. This was very informative, and I'm glad you were able to, to present this because it's so important right now.
It is.
The attacks are just they're just coming in more and more now again. So I'm glad you were able to give that overview.
Yeah, it's scary stuff, but a friend of mine just said the answer to fear is knowledge. So knowledge is a great enabler and great anxiety reducer. Of course, well, I will do a little bit of a self pitch for AdaptiveSky. Knowledge can reduce fear, but especially given stressful times, and I think we're all in stressful times because of politics and because of the virus and because of the economy, it's sometimes time is an issue too. And when you're a certain size firm and you don't have dedicated IT staff, where you just have your IT guy, even if you're knowledgeable, you don't necessarily have the personal bandwidth to take action, nor does everyone else. And there's an element of external reliance. I'll just pitch AdaptiveSky here because I'm on the show. One huge benefit of a setup like AdaptiveSky, our remote desktop, is because we have consistent environments amongst our clients. It's all the same desktop. It's all the same Office suite style programs. It's all the same PDF programs because it's the vast majority of them use Worldox. It puts us in a fantastic situation in that, sure, we get surprised by things too. Clients bring things up to us, new issues arise, all that other stuff. But we only need to, we're like artificial intelligence. We only need to encounter a new problem once. And then after we've encountered the problem, we've learned the solution. And because of the way we're set up, because we have the scale and the procedures in place, and because we have similar homogeneous, non-heterogeneous instances for each client, once we've learned our lesson, we can apply that lesson at scale for all of our clients. So every client of AdaptiveSky gets the benefit of every other client of AdaptiveSky encountering different issues. So if this one client has an issue with a scanner, setting it from home and getting to work in Adaptive, well, once we solve that, of course, we're not gone. It takes a moment. But once we solve that, we know it for every other client. Likewise, once we know the right two-factor authentication approach, the first time we develop a document about how to be aware of phishing and what to look for, the first time we develop a ransomware defense, and as we incrementally improve it, we're in a position, because of our scale and because of our homogeneous environment, to benefit every client. So every client, it's almost like a cartel of buyers. They're forming a cartel to get IT services, and it's, especially in this COVID time, it's worked out great.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
It is wonderful.
It is.
You're
yeah.
welcome.
Okay. Well, let's see. I'm just checking. No, I think that's. Then we'll say this is it for today, and we thank you very much for doing the presentation, and we did record the webinar, and so we will.
Good.
Perfect. So we'll send out a link afterward, and if you mentioned you have the deck for the slides, we can post it, or if you.
Sure, I'll update it just so that the
okay.
Bitcoin price reflects current reality. They're right there. But that will take a minute, and then I'll email to you. I think I'll email to you in PDF form just for everyone's convenience.
All right, and then we can, we'll distribute as we get inquiries for it. We can post it on our, we'll post it on the website or the knowledge base for anyone to grab it.
Great.
So we thank you again, and we hope to see everybody next week for the next webinar, and enjoy your weekend.
Definitely enjoy your weekends. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Bye.
Bye now.